Welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. And now, let's get sketchy.
Hello there, everyone. Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com, and welcome to Gettin Sketchy Live, the greatest live broadcast in all of YouTube. For those of you who don't know what Gettin Sketchy is, it's where either myself or my good friend and fellow artist and art teacher, Ashley Hurst, tries to create a drawing for you inside of 45 minutes. So we're going to have a timer and everything, and this, of course, is broadcast live on YouTube. So we'd like to welcome everybody wherever you are all over the world. We're glad to have you tonight. Tonight, Ashley's going to be doing the drawing, and he's got his full lights on. So before we switch over to him, now he's ready. How you doing tonight, Ashley?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks for asking. I'm glad you folks are here. I hope you got your ears on because we're going to be talking about Vincent van Gogh tonight.
Well, we've got our ears on, of course, and I'm excited to see what takes place here. This season, of course, is season 11 of Gettin Sketchy.
Wow.
And this season, what we're doing is the theme is in the style of. So we are doing artwork in the style of artists through history. And we're trying to keep these two popular, well-known artists. So last week I did Andy Warhol. Of course, that's here on YouTube somewhere. You can find it. Mm-hmm. And this week, Ashley is doing Van Gogh. And next week, I'll be doing a different artist. And we'll continue like that through the rest of season 11.
Did I share my artist last week for this week?
You did.
I think I did. Are you going to tell us who you're doing for next week?
Maybe. I have to decide which one of my remaining four I'm going to do.
Okay, so if Matt decides in the next 50 minutes or so, he'll let us know.
I know what I'm going to do for each artist, but I just haven't decided which one's going to be next. Maybe I'll decide during the show and let you guys know. I will remind you that if you're new to the channel or you haven't done so yet, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel, of course, and click that notification bell so you're notified when we go live and when we upload videos. And also, if you like this video, make sure you give it a like as well. That definitely helps other people find the video who might benefit from it as well. And if you want to go a little bit deeper with your drawing and painting skills, of course, I would strongly recommend that you check out the membership program over at thevirtualinstructor.com. The membership program includes a variety of drawing and painting courses on a variety of subject matter and media. You're guaranteed to find something that you are interested in and you want to learn, trust me. There's also weekly live lessons, so if you like the live broadcasts we do here on YouTube, you'll really love the live lessons. These are each and every week, and they're broadcast for an hour at a time. We do more long-term projects there, so we do finished drawings and paintings there. And of course, each live lesson is designed for you to work alongside of us, of course. There's also weekly critiques as part of the Members Minute and a year-long curriculum for visual arts teachers. All of that is included in the membership program. If you want to check out the membership program, there's a link in the description below this video. Of course, everyone starts out with a week-long trial for free, so you can see if the program's right for you. And we also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee beyond that as well. We want to make sure everybody's happy, and to my knowledge, everybody in the program is really happy with it. So I would encourage checking it out. If you do want to just dabble a little bit and check out 3 of the course videos and ebooks for free, there's also a link in the description below for that as well. That will put you on our newsletter list too. And I like to send out newsletters from time to time to keep people abreast of all the things that I add to the website. And I sent out the last newsletter yesterday. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And there'll be another one coming soon, sometime in the future, as I continue to add more content. Of course, this is live here on YouTube, and we would encourage everyone to be involved. Our chat box has gotten pretty big now, and we used to have people put their comments and questions in capital letters, but this season we're encouraging folks to use the super chat feature on YouTube. It does cost a little bit of money, but of course that money goes to help us do this broadcast, which it may seem like it's free to do here on YouTube, but the equipment that we use, the materials that we use, all that stuff costs money. So anything helps, of course. And it also gets your comment and question featured so that it's easier for us to see. And of course, we will address your comment and question guaranteed if you use the super chat function. All right, Ashley, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. We'll go ahead and take a look at a few Van Gogh images and maybe just speak about some characteristics that are specific to his way of drawing and look at our materials, and then we'll get started.
Sure. All right.
All right, so Vincent van Gogh led a tumultuous and passionate life marked by his unwavering dedication to art. He was born in 1853 in the Netherlands, and he struggled in ways that often reflected in his emotionally charged and vivid artwork, like you can see on the screen there. Despite facing numerous challenges, he produced over 2,000 artworks, including some of these sketchbook drawings, and also Starry Night and Sunflowers. There's Starry Night. You're probably familiar with that. Van Gogh's life was marred by poverty and self-doubt, and he only gained recognition after he died in 1890. One might say that he embodied what became the stereotype of what an artist is, and I've got some thoughts about that myself. His post-impressionist style and unique use of color and texture left an indelible mark on the art world, inspiring generations of artists and art enthusiasts. Tonight we're going to focus on his drawing style rather than his painting style, but they are very similar in that they have a distinct mark making that's not necessarily blended in or blended together.
Okay. All right. Are you ready to switch over?
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch over and we'll take a look at our materials. All right, so we got a reference on the left, and I'm going to be using some gray paper.
Oh, let me interrupt you real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
If you want a copy of the reference to follow alongside, all you have to do is click on the little icon of my face underneath the video. That will take you to the YouTube channel. You may be watching this video, but not necessarily on the channel. And you'll look for the community tab. And underneath the community tab, you'll see this photo reference, of course. And you can download it and use it alongside of us. We'll, of course, have the photo reference up during the drawing exercise. But if you want it for yourself, you know where to find it.
All right, great. Thanks for that, Matt. So I'm going to be using some General's charcoal pencils, and I've got 3 different weights, or I guess hardnesses. We've got an HB designated as hard, a 2B designated as medium, and a 6B, our darkest option, designated as soft. In addition to that, I do have a white charcoal pencil since we are going to be working on gray paper. You know, Vincent van Gogh worked on kind of yellowed or brown toned paper. Sometimes he would use a white medium and sometimes he didn't. But we're going to go ahead and take that option tonight. I also have a well-used dark kneaded eraser, but they just seem to last forever as long as you don't drop them on the floor and get lint and hair in them. And I haven't done that with this one. But we're going to start with vine charcoal or willow charcoal. Sometimes it's made from willow, sometimes from grapevines. I'm not sure which this was made from, but that's what we're going to start with. A lot of Vincent van Gogh's artwork, both his paintings and drawings, are characterized by heavy outlines, even heavy black outlines sometimes, which is not popular, not in vogue in his lifetime, and that was probably a contributing factor in his artwork not being well received. But since we are working in the Van Gogh style, I'm going to try to restrict myself from having edges and try to use lines in place of those edges, and also work in a cross-contour fashion, building up value with lines that cross usually the shorter direction around a form that kind of helps to reveal that form. All right. I think we're about ready to start, Matt.
Sounds good. And you may have mentioned this, I might have missed it, but you're working on gray paper.
That's right.
You really do need to have some type of white mark-making material.
Correct. And you don't have to use white at home. You can, gray at home. You can use white and just leave out the white material.
Yeah, okay. Because you want to have a full range of value. So if you're just working with gray paper and dark charcoal, you're not going to be able to create that full range of value. So
looks like I've already started. Better get that off of there.
All right, you let me know when you're ready for the timer.
All right. I love drawing with vine charcoal. It's wispy. Sometimes we have breakage, but I've got 2 pieces just in case. Let's go ahead and bring up the timer and we'll begin. I don't have a picture plane drawn. I plan to box out my drawing when I'm done. So I'm just going to start looking at the edges of these gaming headphones and start putting some marks down in a simplified fashion. So there's a lot of details to the contour of these headphones, and we'll try to find those details after we have a pretty straight line drawing that kind of boxes out the shapes that we see in here. So this is going to be the forward headphone. One characteristic of Van Gogh's artwork that I've noticed is sort of an exaggeration in perspective. You can think about the picture that he drew of his own bedroom. It's kind of an exaggerated one-point perspective shot. So this is a photograph I took myself, and I held the camera pretty close to the headphones so that one headphone would be noticeably larger than the other, and try to capture that little bit of exaggeration in scale created by perspective sometimes. All right, so we're going to try to squeeze our headphones into those shapes, and we've always got the option of modifying those shapes. Let's go ahead and look for the band now.
So Jan notices the the irony of the fact that this is an instrument placed on the ears in the style of Van Gogh.
That's right. I couldn't help it.
And somehow he's pulled out a ear emoji.
There's an ear emoji. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
How do you find that?
Any opportunity we have to use the word ear as a pun tonight, we need to take it.
I hear you. Lori says, I see Ashley's wearing long sleeves again, LOL. Yeah, and it is like 90 degrees here.
Hey, this is a summer sweatshirt. It's made of bamboo.
There's no such thing as a summer sweatshirt.
It is. It's a summer sweatshirt. It's
not in the South.
The air goes through it.
In the U.S. southern states.
It's thin and it's made of grasses.
Anybody who has been to the southern part of the United States in August knows how ridiculously hot and humid it is. I don't see how you do it. I wish I could pull it off. I can't do it. I'm sweating.
Makes the air,
I'm sweating like
makes the
crazy.
Air conditioner feel good in my car when I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I feel like I need it. Like, it's a little hot in here. I could take my sweatshirt off, or I'll turn the air conditioner on. So that's what I do. All right. Now, before I get too far, I want to check my proportions. And this pair of headphones, it just so happens that the height of the headphones is about the same as the width of the headphones to the inside of the headband. So I think I'm about there, maybe a little bit wide over here. So,
and did you measured that on your reference first?
Correct.
To make that comparison.
Correct. You guys can't see that. We're working from the references on an iPad, so I'm going to get charcoal dust all over it. All right, so that should be a little bit closer. We'll follow that over, and the inside will be about right there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's going to be close as far as the height and width goes. So I'll go ahead and continue with the band. And I think I'm going to just try to grab the plastic part first.
Well, Ryan Nebula says that she also wears a sweatshirt all year round, even in, it looks like the Virginia area with 90 plus temperatures.
Yeah, it's just about the same weather up there. That's right.
And Dale has long sleeve fishing shirts made to protect it. Ashley's not wearing long sleeve fishing shirts. He's wearing what I would wear
in
late
December,
October, maybe early November.
Yeah. I'll also be wearing this in late October, early November. All right, now we got to look for that soft part in here, the cushiony part. These are my son's headphones, by the way.
There's a lot of people that share in your wanting to cover up your bare arms.
Well, I've got tiny little spindly arms. I don't want anybody. No, I'm just
no,
kidding.
he doesn't.
I'm kidding.
Okay, some people are just confirming, is this in the style of Van Gogh?
Correct, it's in the style of Van Gogh. So if we lose some of these, I mean, we're going to refine the outlines up here. You know, the contours of the headphones are really specific. But if we lose a little bit of the dark black line, we'll be putting it back near the end.
So you're wanting to create, looking at the images of his sketches, you're wanting to create dark outlines,
correct,
strong outlines?
Correct. I mean, he even did that with portraiture. Incidentally, Van Gogh didn't draw many objects. There's not a lot of, that's why we were looking at some sketchbook drawings that he did that were probably just preliminary work to service a larger painting that he was working on, because he mostly did some interior spaces, but he mostly painted, you know, people and landscapes, or people in the landscape. That was his kind of his genre. I think this is where we're going to have our indentation on the forward headphone. And then our padding. Now this is vine charcoal or willow charcoal, so it erases really easily. So as we move our lines around, there's some of those early lines, we can just make them disappear. That's nice.
Now, for those of you who don't have much experience with charcoal, I highly recommend that you get some. Charcoal is what I like to call the artist drawing medium, because it is such a unique process. It's not exactly the same as drawing with graphite, obviously. It's a little bit more related to painting. So it's a really nice medium to bridge the gap between drawing and painting, much like pastels are.
And that's, partly because you can push and move it around so easily. But we're not going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to leave our marks to remain pretty distinct, pretty fresh. Distinct mark making is a hallmark of Van Gogh's artwork. So a little bit, I'm going to use it a little bit in a unique way. That's not to say Vincent van Gogh didn't blend and smudge his charcoal sometimes. He did, but he also drew with charcoal and ink in a similar way. Sometimes he would draw with ink, and of course those marks are really permanent. So a lot of line work. All right. I'm going to work down here a little bit now, just trying to give it the same kind of treatment, find our curve. Seems like right when we break out below the rear headphone, that's about where the curve of this one begins. So we're going to be shaving off a corner.
I think it'll be interesting to see how you handle the shading and the value changes, because it seemed like Van Gogh adjusted the amount of pressure that he put to make lighter lines almost.
Well, I've got different weights charcoal. Remember, I'm going to switch to the pencils. Hopefully that's going to help.
So that's the plan of attack with
I'm going to start.
Still linear.
I've got we're still going to stick with lines, cross contour lines that kind of bend and change direction and wrap around our form. That's the hope, anyway. All right. I'm keeping one eye on the time because I've got an idea of when I want to start shading. These are time drawings, so we got to move from one stage to another. We just got to keep moving. We just got to keep moving. And I would like to start shading after about 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, it looks like you got a big cushion there still left.
It always seems that way.
Well, yeah. Well, I often get off to a good start and then get distracted. I think last week I got distracted and talked about erasers or pencil sharpeners or something. Yeah. And then I found time creeping up on me.
Now, there's a lot of small details in here. We may capture more and more of them as we go through the drawing and even during the shading process, but if we leave some out, that's okay too. There we go. Because nobody looks at our references when we're done unless we show them. And you look at the finished product. So as long as it feels evenly, complete from one side to the other. You ever seen that horse drawing online where the front of the horse is like a stick drawing and the middle of it is sort of a little more developed? I think I have, yeah. And then the rear end is like photographic.
Right, yeah.
We don't want our drawing to look like that. We want it to be pretty evenly developed. It's a funny illustration. All right, move the line up a little bit, so we'll clean up the original. So I didn't make a whole lot of proportional changes, mostly just squeezing this headphone down a little bit, but make sure you're checking your own proportions. You may have a different fix that you need to pay attention to. And it's never a wrong time to adjust your proportions unless you're on the clock.
And one of the great things about working with charcoal, especially vine charcoal in these early stages, is that although it smudges, it's really easy to erase. It's very forgiving.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Sometimes you can even make adjustments just by not even using an eraser, but just using your finger to kind of smudge out.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually smudged a little bit of this away with my summer sweatshirt.
You're just wearing a chamois.
Yeah, I'm wearing my own eraser. All right. There's the business end of our headphone right there where the sound comes out. Oh, all right. Looks pretty good. And according to my plan, I've got 3 minutes of to go with contour line drawing.
Edie has an interesting comment.
All right.
She says, frankly, I think Van Gogh is overappreciated. The paint is just globbed on his canvas. His brushstrokes look sloppy, and I just don't like that. Well, I think I understand where you're coming from there, Edie. But I think what people might forget is that Van Gogh is kind of a transitional artist, being categorized as a post-impressionist. So he's kind of a little bit of a bridge between impressionism and the abstract artist that would later come.
Yeah, they say the same thing about Cezanne. That he was kind of in
Cezanne's about the
between.
same time.
Cezanne would have all kinds of like drawing issues or problems in his artwork in the drawing stage, and instead of fixing them, he would just start painting, and he would spend all this time painting and really sort of solidifying the mistakes that he had made, if you want to think of them as mistakes. So I hear you.
And Valerie Gentry has given us a super chat.
Thank you, Valerie. Is there a question with that super chat?
No.
Oh, okay.
Valerie,
all right.
We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. And of course, every time you guys put a super chat in there, we are going to cheer for you, as you just saw. And if you have a question or a comment, if you put it in there with the super chat, of course, that'll give us a chance to really stew on whatever your comment or question is.
I do want to get this little line.
Yeah, it is going to be just charcoal and pencils tonight. I know that seems a little bit out of character for Van Gogh, but Van Gogh does have some distinctive drawings that are recorded in history. We think of Van Gogh, of course, as being more of a painter, but of course he had an artistic journey, just like the rest of us are on.
We've never done an oil painting on Gettin Sketchy, and part of it is the time constraint.
Yeah,
I don't think we've used oil paint here.
We haven't used oil paint.
I've done live lessons in oil paint because those go over a number of weeks.
And we've got another super chat by Peter. Thank you, Peter.
All right. Thank you, Peter. We appreciate your support.
And Peter, we know you've been around for a while, and we really appreciate it. Of course, we love seeing you in the chat box. And Peter asked, Ashley, how's the new job?
Oh, thanks for asking. It's going great so far. My students actually return to the classroom tomorrow, so I guess it's subject to change. But they seem real sweet. I met a ton of them yesterday, and they seem to be really excited about getting back into art classes, and many of them told me they'd been drawing over the summer. So we're just going to hopefully pick up where they left off. I love my new classroom. It's got a beautiful sort of faux finish on the floor that kind of looks like marble or granite, and there's a crack that runs through it from the door straight to my desk. So when I come in tired and bleary-eyed, I'll just follow the crack to my desk. And
you don't think that was a lightning strike from the last art teacher, do you?
Oh, I hope not. All right, we've got 30 minutes left, so we're going to go ahead and start adding some strokes in here.
So I'll follow up that question.
Go ahead.
Peter.
I'm sorry.
I always used to get really nervous the night before getting new students. Are you feeling those butterflies?
Oh yeah, definitely. I wasn't sure if it was the Gettin Sketchy tonight or the whole kind of stepping into the unknown tomorrow. Whoops. But it's probably a combination of both. We get a little nervous about Gettin Sketchy too. Just want our shows to go well. All right, so I'm trying to think about what direction the planes are traveling, and then I'm going to make marks according to those planes. And I'm going to actually jump into this headphone pretty fast because that's where one of our greater forms are. that kind of have a rounder quality. And so I want to go ahead and get into that. So I'm going to just put a series of strokes in that follow the curve, and then we can go back and figure out where it needs to be darker. But we're going to establish some form with some contour lines, cross contour lines, I should say, right off the bat.
So you're kind of doing this like a macro pen and ink drawing with charcoal.
I guess so.
You could think about it that way.
And a lot of Van Gogh's his drawings were done in ink. And it's probably why he was inclined to work this way in his sketchbook.
BG-FL says that they notice that with Van Gogh, his early art to his later art, his improvement as an artist from early days to later. And yet, that is something that is definitely recorded on how Van Gogh had to work at being an artist and develop his craft.
His skill improved,
right?
Not his talent. His skill continued to improve through doing. Even if his style isn't your cup of tea. And he's not the only artist. I like to point at Salvador Dali. His technical skill really improved over the course of his career.
And I may be wrong about Van Gogh, but I don't think he really started until later in life. Right?
No, he intended to be a pastor, and he went to like a type of seminary for a couple of years, and that direction in his life ended because of his poor oration. He was not a good speaker, and that's kind of one of the, part of the job if you're going to be a pastor. So, but we can actually see a ton of biblical themes in his artwork, like the sower, and he painted the sower over and over and over, based on a biblical parable. So he found another way to get his message out without speaking. So it was kind of his second. He was failed at pastor, and then he started as an artist. And people talk about how he was a failed artist too, but he stuck with that one. He saw it through.
So I'd like to just point out that should be encouragement for you guys, no matter where you are in your artistic journey.
Or when you are.
Right. And when you start, I mean, we all know probably about Grandma Moses, who didn't start painting until she was, a grandma. So, it's never too late to develop a skill. And this is true of any skill that you want to develop. It doesn't have to just apply to art.
Yeah, I read somewhere, speaking of it not applying to art, that Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s.
Yeah, I think he did start late. Yeah.
So he'd lived almost a whole you would think of as a lifetime in terms of a career before he started in that direction. So I think that's awesome.
Barb makes a couple nice comments. No need to get nervous. You both are such good artists, and if you ever make a mistake, you know how to correct it. Plus, it'll show us that you are human. We're definitely human. You don't have to watch much of this to figure that out.
Matt's a lizard creature.
And then she goes on to say, plus, Ashley, you're such a good person that your students are extremely lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you for that. Hopefully we're good for each other. I like being around young people.
And I should also point out here, and I'm sure Ashley will concur, that Ashley's doing an interpretation of Van Gogh's style. So your interpretation, if you're doing this exercise, doesn't have to be exactly the same as what Ashley is doing. So
that's right.
If you decide to make your cross contour lines go in a different direction, that's okay. I think that what Ashley's trying to do here is bold, strong mark making, a little bit of variety in line quality, and using a lot of hatching marks to develop the value. So what I'm looking at here and what I'm seeing develop is very similar to how we might develop a pen and ink drawing. But the exception is this is done with charcoal, various grades of charcoal.
In a sense, this is sort of a combo, probably, of Van Gogh's inclinations in drawing and also my own. You just can't get away from that. It's hard to copy other people's style and keep yourself out of it. Forgot about this sweet detail back here that we'll get some white charcoal in this area a little bit later in the drawing. All right. Now I'm going to switch over to my 6B now. We've got a lot of the white plastic to still address with some mark making, but I'm going to go ahead and start getting a little bit darker using those lines that I had previously put on as a guide for my stroke direction.
So I guess you're planning on using the gray of the paper as being a little bit of the value.
Yeah, a little bit. There'll be areas that get less material on them for sure. But I do want to get marks across every surface in some, greater or lesser amount. Just switch to this guy, break out the pink pearl. I took my lines a little too far. I don't know if I can use this brush on here without losing my drawing. There we go. A little bit. Pink pearls do leave some eraser shavings I'm not super happy about. All right. These pencils are all exactly the same color. So when I change, I have to pick up all three before I find the right one almost every single time.
It's probably going to be hard to see much of a difference on camera, too.
The 2B and the 6B really don't feel... They feel different, but their darkness doesn't seem that different. But
right.
The HB, I can really tell a difference. That one's a little bit more distinct. Okay. A little bit of a directional change up here. I thought about bringing my clear bridge so I could float my hand over the drawing without touching it, but I left it at home.
So just to point out to folks who are trying to think about what direction to make the lines, you're thinking about the planes of the object, and almost like if you were running your finger over each one of the planes.
Correct. This little bit that I'm on now, it seems to move through space at an angle, and so that's the angle that I feel like it's traveling through space is the angle that I'm using for those strokes.
All right. Matthew Russell says, I'd love to have a teacher like you, Ashley. I'm starting college studying fine art. I'm really nervous. Any advice?
Well, you can learn different things from each of your teachers. So you don't have to try to emulate their drawing style or their painting inclinations, but try to learn from them and then sort of build your own toolbox of skills.
Yeah, and I understand the nervousness. Trust me. I think that if you put too much pressure on yourself, then that is going to contribute to your nervousness. I think if you're already in the college, what you just need to do is go in and absorb as much as you can and think of yourself as a ball of clay and allow yourself to be molded. And of course, you have some control over how that molding takes place, but be willing to listen and understand different points of view, different types of art, and different processes.
I had two painting teachers that were really different from each other, and I learned from both of them. And I did try to sort of work towards their advice in those classes. Different semesters, I would have one over the other, and I can see their advice, their way of making art come out in my own art at the same time, sort of an amalgamation of both of them. I mean, one of them particularly, I love his paintings even to this day, and but I still don't paint quite like him. And he said, you're not going to, and you kind of do what your teacher tells you to, and then after school, you do what seems to come more natural to you, and that's kind of how it's gone. All right, now it's very light over here, and we are going to break that white charcoal out in the last minutes of our drawing, but I'm going to see what I can do with of course, it's the third pencil every time. It's the fourth pencil this time. The HB pencil, the hard one, which typically makes lighter marks. So let's see. And I'm just trying to work with just past the weight of the pencil. So I'm not really pressing down very hard. I'm holding it way back on the end.
Now, I think I remember you saying that you were hoping to be started on adding the value at 15 minutes left.
No. I was wanting to do the drawing
for the first 15
minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes for shading.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's where I started. And I've added some small marks that were left out in the drawing since then. But I went ahead and started with the shading there at the 29-minute mark.
So you were right on schedule.
Right on schedule. I'm gonna get this edge back, even though the back edge of this isn't dark, like we're making it. It's part of our Van Gogh style. Yeah, I like this HB charcoal, and usually I steer clear of these things, feeling like they're not dark enough to even be called charcoal. But for this drawing, the subject is so generally light that it seems to be advantageous to have one. Yeah, I took this picture because out of convenience. My son doesn't have a dark set of headphones, and I kind of wished he had, but I thought I wanted to do something ear related since we were going to be working with Van Gogh.
I still hear you.
We've got a lot of time left. 17 minutes. I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah, you're rolling.
So as we work our way around, you can see these lines here, these small lines, they're at this angle. And then we have a corner, and right above the lines that are pretty dark and at an angle, they're going to flatten out some. So let's see that change in direction happen at the corner. And that helps us understand the form. So I love that. A lot of time you can look at the very edge of a part and then use the direction of the contour for the cross contour lines, and that's what I'm doing down here. We've got another diagonal line that's going to go in place through here, and I'm using the diagonal on the outside of the contour as my guide. And it may change a little bit as we work our way this way. It seems like the contour edge of the band leans in the opposite way, so the lines are going to kind of do like this. They're going to change gradually, stand up a little bit more vertical in the middle, and then kind of flop over into the opposite diagonal. Happening now. All right, there's a sneaky little plane in here that almost got away from me. And it's not a great difference in value in this area, between the top plane, the middle plane that's at an angle, and the more vertical plane. But the more vertical plane's a little bit darker, so that gives me, a little bit lighter. And right now they match. So that gives me the opportunity, I know it's okay, to go ahead and darken this top plane a little bit more. Of course, I'm counting on the white charcoal to sort of make this drawing pop. And we're saving that for the last 5 minutes or so. Okay. Of course, actually maybe the last 10 minutes, because we've got to do a little shading around it. I mean, part of what makes this drawing is the shadow that repeats the shape underneath. We can't leave that out. Yeah, that's super cool.
That shadow does make a difference.
Yeah, a lot of times Matt and I will find images that are copyright free and use those here because sometimes they're great images. But this one I took myself, and I probably took 12 or 15 pictures of these headphones before settling on this one. So if you're taking your own references, take a bunch, move the light around, and see if you can make the shading work for you. High contrast, and sometimes in this case, I think the cast shadow that goes in the middle is part of the composition. All right, it's pretty dark in here, so don't be afraid to build that up. Actually, there's a slight light passage right across the corner of this soft part, so I'm going to dig a little bit of that out. And one of my teachers, my professors that I learned a lot from, he talked about corners a lot, catching light. And of course, I'm making the corners of all of these different planes a dark, heavy outline because of the Van Gogh style. We're working in Van Gogh style. But I kind of like that little soft highlight right in here. I think it helps to reveal a little bit of the softness of that part of the headphone. So I want to dig that out and let that corner, in fact, catch a little bit of light. There we go. Now, above that, we're going to get some white charcoal in there. And that's also going to help our... Oh, we got a super chat from Colleen, it looks like.
Right.
Loving your Van Gogh style drawing. My favorite artist.
Thank you, Colleen.
He's very popular nowadays. And, I mentioned that he kind of became the stereotype. There's a stereotype out there that I don't like. That is that artists are only appreciated after they die. And that's not true. It was true in the case of Van Gogh. And so I feel like his fame, his popularity, like it was said earlier, maybe he's overappreciated some today, or some feel that way. Because he is so appreciated, I feel like a lot of people, maybe me sometimes, have sort of looked at his own life as being characteristic of what an artist is. I mean, he really did, quote unquote, kind of suffer for his art. And but it was true in his life. But many artists are successful with their art, even in the time in which they live. Just not Van Gogh. So he was a stereotype contributor a little bit. All right. And of course, it's never a bad time to work on your contours. Where I've lost them or where I see little differences, I'm still going backwards and making an adjustment to that, even though those were really some of our first steps. I told some of my new students about Gettin Sketchy, so I don't know if any of them are on here or even remembered from last night. Open houses are kind of wild. Kids are getting so much new information, but if they are, I hope they're watching and they're ready for tomorrow, bright and early. We're going to get started with all kinds of boring classroom talk. Okay, so we've got to continue to build up, not leave out shadows where they exist and I haven't addressed yet. And then I'm going to need to go. We got 10 minutes, so I think I just need to make sure I get dark enough on the grayer parts of the headphones. Going to put some of that back, and then we got to get to our cast shadow and the white charcoal. So let me get these values down just a little bit more.
This particular style is definitely pretty striking, that's for sure. Got strong contrast even without the white.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's go ahead and work on our shadow a little bit. I am going to go ahead and draw out its shape, and then we're going to use really horizontal lines, as flat as we can get them, inside of this shadow shape. Of course, they'll be heavier or closer together in some areas because there is some variety to the value in the shadow, but they need to be uniformly flat. And then we've got this crazy crossover shadow because there were actually two light sources, which is often a no-no, but I had two light sources. One was quite a bit stronger than the other. All right, let's see. It looks like I still have the 2B pencil, and I'm going to stick with that for now. And then we'll throw a little bit of 6B right up here where the headphones meet the surface.
Now, is that 2B or not 2B? That is the question.
It's 2B right now. Now, if you don't want your line's quite so strong, you can kind of go back and forth and make it a little bit smoother. But I'm still sticking with this. These trying to make pretty pronounced lines. One of the ways that we can create harmony in our artwork is with the elements of art. And so if it's all made of lines, distinct lines, then that'll definitely add to the harmony. And there's a lot of harmony in this work. Another way is we can create a sense of oneness is through unity. And I think the gray paper does that. Sometimes unity is created by choices besides the elements of art, things like our material choices or paper choices. They're very similar, harmony and unity, and they pretty much do the same thing. They could almost be the same thing. All right, switch to the 6B, and I'm just going to hit this shadow where it touches the object, where it's closest to the object, because that's where we're going to get our strongest dark. There we go. And back to the 2B.
Oh, that shadow is definitely grounding the earphones.
Yeah, it needed that.
You know, if Van Gogh used these earphones, he would get twice the life out of them.
He would probably get a 50% discount.
Well, he'd have to buy both of them. But when one end went out, he could
just flip them around.
Yeah.
Right, just flip them around. Poor guy.
You know, sometimes people don't listen to me, and it frustrates me. And I've often been tempted to cut off my ear and say, hey, you don't think I'll listen to you? Here's a piece of my ear. Anytime you want to talk to me, you just talk to the ear.
Instead of talk to the hand, because I'm not listening, say talk to the ear, because I'm not here.
Yeah.
All right, got 6 minutes to go, so we'll be switching to our white charcoal for our finishing touches. And there's still places I haven't addressed. I look up and see something that I missed. That's typical. A lot of times when I'm making my own drawings, I like to walk away, eat a ham sandwich, and then come back and see what I've missed. So, like in here, I haven't even touched that in there. Now let's see, what do I have? 2B, so I'm going to go back to the 6B. And make some of these contours, these outlines more prominent, which usually I avoid doing in my own artwork because of one of those professors I mentioned earlier, who is so against lines around the edges. He was into the value of one edge bumping into the value of another edge. And if they were almost the same value and you couldn't see them well, fine. That's just how it looks. But so I'm kind of enjoying breaking these old classroom rules tonight and putting in some distinct outlines. All right. We're going to go ahead and switch over to our white charcoal now. And there's just this is a white object, but there's just a few places, a few spots that are extra light. So let's go ahead and put, that feels funny. I'm going to use a sandpaper pad and just run the tip over the sandpaper pad a little bit. It didn't feel like it wanted to make a mark. All right, let's hope that fixes it. There we go. And of course, white charcoal is not quite the same as regular charcoal, and so maybe it was just it seemed to feel funny in comparison. And there's little spots of white all over this guy, and it doesn't have to be white. It could just be just some marks that make an area lighter, if not entirely white. So in this case, the black material and the white material, they're really not mixing together at all. mostly laying down white marks, some bolder than others, in places that there's clean paper. Or
just that little bit of white completes that value scale.
Yeah, just that little bit. It doesn't take much. I know we didn't need to spend too much time adding white, but it definitely needs it. All right, now there is a nice long stroke of white here in the back that helps balance out where we've already used the white. And I've got some smudge marks in there, so sorry if you guys can hear me blowing the dust. There we go. And there's a shiny spot right up here. Maybe take it out away from the shiny spot, soften the edge of that. Just trying to make room for the white in a few places. It's a lot of it is in fact where there are corners, like we talked about, where corners catch light. Here's a little edge. Even if they don't land exactly where they're supposed to be, it's like I said, we're not going to look at the reference when we're done. We're going to look at our drawing instead. All right. Clean out just.
I don't think you need to do this, but one thing that if you wanted to make this even more striking, you could add white to the areas around the headphones.
That's true, like around in here.
Yeah, all the open areas.
It might be nice.
That could make things stand out.
Just a little bit, Yeah. Well, and also just add more marks across our page. For that harmony we were talking about.
Well, I know there's still 1 minute and 35 seconds left, but this definitely looks like a drawing that could have been created by Van Gogh. I'm really impressed with how this has turned out. I'll be honest.
I like
when you said you were working with charcoal when we were doing Van Gogh, I had my.
Oh no!
I wondered how that might be pulled off, but this is absolutely fantastic, and it looks like a Van Gogh drawing.
I like it.
It really does.
Yeah, I think I like it. Now, I did want to box it out just to give it some context. We're working without a picture plane tonight, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in a picture plane that's similar to what we see in the reference. And maybe a little higher. This is close to a square, but not quite. And I think I want to add, in the last 30 seconds, just a little bit of darkness down in this corner. Now that we've got a picture plane, it feels like it needs that for balance. Yeah, definitely needed that for balance. Just a little more weight. This open space. All right. 2, 1.
Boom. Within the time limit.
All right.
Complete a drawing. This also could stand.
I feel good about that for stopping in the time limit. I mean, it definitely could be worked on more. Most of our sketches could. Your Andy Warhol looked pretty much like a completed artwork last time. Completed painting, but I feel like it stands up. It stands up now. The values are far enough apart that I think it works as a complete drawing.
Well, lots of compliments here in the chat box. One says, "Great job."
Thank you, everybody.
On a difficult subject. I also think this kind of looks like a woodblock print too.
It does have that quality, and I do love woodblock prints. So I like drawing and working with lines. It's one of my favorite elements of art. Line and space, I think, are probably my two favorite elements of art, at least today. So.
I remember when we had an argument over whether or not line actually existed.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
That's
and
right.
now it's your favorite element
Well,
of art.
it's because of that. I was not far out of school, and I had that professor that was so against visible lines in artwork. That his I was still back then. I was probably still like transmuting his voice. I don't know if that's the right word.
Transcribing it.
He was speaking through me.
Yeah, you were. What is it when you're overcome by a spirit? Anyway, June says, way to Van Gogh, Ashley.
Oh, good one.
That's a good
Yes,
one.
good one.
Yeah, awesome work. Lots of comments.
I eerily love it.
I eerily love it.
Thank you, Dale.
Very nice. All right. With that, I guess we'll go ahead and switch out over here.
All right, let's do it.
So I have debated whether or not I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I've got my list of artists here in front of me, and I actually have 6 artists that I picked out, but one of them, I'm going to do 6, okay? But one episode, I'm going to be able to do 2 in one episode. Yeah.
That's
and
interesting.
I feel, well, you'll just have to wait for that episode because it's going to be the last one where I'm drawing. But the artist I think I'm going to do next week is going to be Georgia O'Keeffe.
All right, great.
So from my list here, I think I'm going to do Georgia O'Keeffe next week. Instead of the one that I'm really looking forward to. There's actually 3 that I'm really looking forward to. But
she was called a precisionist, right?
Yeah, she could fall into that category.
I think
she zoomed in really close to
But her subject matter was so different from the other precisionists that she was a little bit in a class of her own.
Right. So I haven't decided if we're going to do one that is skull related or if we're going to do kind of the larger paintings where you could imagine yourself being a bee, being close to a flower. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel pretty confident I'm going to be using oil pastels. I feel pretty confident. Might be soft pastels. I might switch at the very end. But that's what we'll be doing next week. It'll be Georgia O'Keeffe. So we will see you then, I guess. Ashley, do you have anything else to?
I don't think so. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. And if you had questions, I hope you got them answered and you learned something tonight. So otherwise, I will see you here, same time, same channel next week.
Absolutely. And again, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that and click on the notification bell. And I'd also like to remind you that Ashley and I are getting ready to be live over at thevirtualinstructor.com with our live lessons. I am creating a landscape with pastels for this current series, and we're going to be continuing with part 4 of that series tonight. So those of you who are members who are going to be joining us in just a few minutes, I will see you then, and Ashley will too. And if you're not already a member, you can join, of course. There's a link in the description below, and check it out for free for 7 days. I'm sure you won't regret it. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off here and get ready for our next show. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, guys. We really appreciate you watching this wherever you are in whatever time zone you're in, of course. And even if you're watching it in the future, we appreciate that too. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week, a safe week, and we'll see you next week at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Gettin Sketchy. Good night, everybody.